All right, here we are. We're back. The PCA Next Gen Podcast. Our awkward head bumping music, composed by Mikey and AI. How's everybody doing today?
Oh, good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great after that intro music. It just took me back to my 80s childhood. And the only dance we had was breakdancing and the head bob. That was it.
Come on.
Every time I hear that, it makes me want to announce like all skate. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay.
We still have a roller rink. What's it called? It's called Skate World here. It just closed down. It's been open forever. You walk into it. It takes you right back to the 80s, 90s. Immediately, it has all the same stuff. They haven't changed the carpet. They haven't changed the logos for the Coca-Cola, for the French fries. I mean, it is like, it smells the same. They haven't washed anything since.
There was, Robert, I'm going to introduce you in a second, but this is where we have to be a little ADD. First of all, I am convinced that the secret to time travel is smell.
I mean, it's
because
like it.
No, I'm not kidding. Like where I lived in Miami, there was a roller rink a stone's throw from my house. I could see it from my driveway. And this is in Miami, the sexiest city in the country, right?
Come on.
You walk into that place, it is instant time travel to 12-year-old Matt in 1980 trying to hold hands with a girl for couple skate. Like it is, the carpet is the same, the smell is the same.
I feel like, in those sci-fi films where like they go and like they get DNA from people in the past and they're able to clone them and recreate them in the future or whatever in the present time, like that sort of angle. I feel like they're going to go to roller rinks if that ever happens and be able to collect DNA from the carpet and be able to recreate portals. Us.
Yeah.
Because my DNA 100% is on that carpet. Just from falling or whatever it may be.
For sure.
From the pizza as a child, whatever it is, just go to that roller rink, pull the carpet.
The food is no better.
95% of those who existed in the 80s and 90s in those carpets. So
if you have a roller rink in your town, I want to know. I want to know if you have a time travel portal, because we won't be able to go you can only travel back in time from one roller rink. By the way, this is an Amazon series, so if anybody's listening, I think this is the way to go. Capitalize on sci-fi nerds, capitalize on nostalgia. This is gold.
Exactly.
Matt, when I was dating my wife in college, I was like, oh yeah, man, we'll do a throwback and go to a skating rink in Cookeville, Tennessee, and where we're in school. So it's us as college students with like 50 middle schoolers.
Oh,
and so
nice.
So they have couple skate, and so we're ready. We jump out there with like the three brave soul middle schoolers that actually asked a girl to skate with them.
Come on now.
And my wife can roller skate pretty good. So she's like, she decides she's going to skate backwards. And I'm holding her hips while we're skating, and our skates lock. Not made up story. Our skates lock. My girlfriend, now wife, falls to the ground. I fall on top of her. And we are just wailing, laughing in the middle of the roller rink, and all these middle schoolers coming up to us. Are you guys okay? Oh man, it was great. It was a fun night.
I'm glad they checked on you. They might have thought that was the way to do it. They were like, oh, that guy's got moves. Look at that. Yeah, I fell over. Yeah.
Now I'm right next to her.
My best collision story on the roller rink was I worked for the YMCA when I was in high school and just out of high school, and we would take kids, on field trips, and we go to the roller rink, and I could skate fairly decently. I hate it now. I won't do it now, but I'm just skating, and this little kid, I mean, he's like 2.5 feet tall, doesn't see me at all, and I'm giant compared to him. Cuts right into me, and I'm gonna eat it. Like I have two options now. Like if I'm gonna turn this kid into a stain on the roller rink. Like he is gonna be just a flattened mass that DNA will be used for time travel later on. And I would like, what do I do? So I picked the kid up. I just grabbed him and I threw my legs out from underneath me. So like I fell on my back with the kid on top of me instead of 250 pounds coming down on him and spreading him out like a pancake. And the kid had no idea that I was there. So I would love to have seen this from his point of view. He's zooming by. All of a sudden, he's up in the air looking at the ceiling, lands on this giant stuntman air cushion of a person, and just gets up and skates off. And I'm like, I'm done. No more skating for me. Oh, well, what a great start. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest today, Robert Rowe, with us. From the See Jesus Ministry. We are so excited to talk to you, Robert. Thanks so much for making some time to hang out with us.
Oh man, it's a wonderful to be with you guys. I appreciate what you guys do, and glad to just add a little flair or invitation to come share with you what's going on. As we, we're all after, we all hope for the next generation. So I'm glad to be a part of it. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. And we have a very special friend in common who's not with us today. Quite possibly the craziest man in youth ministry. One of my all-time heroes for longevity, Christian Graham.
Yes,
we hope
legend.
to have on the show. Legend.
Yeah.
The guy is I can't wait till we have him on, because when we tell his story, the guy's beyond like a church youth pastor. He is like a regional
he is
in a region full of great youth pastors. He is a very special animal.
He's a blast to work with. Yeah.
I like, well, I could go on, but a magician, a youth pastor, a photographer walk into a bar and they're all Christian Graham. So
that's Christian's in Chattanooga, right, Robert, with you?
He's in Kent Island, Maryland. His daughter, Gianna, is in Chattanooga.
That's right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is another great story of a second generation youth director.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's really, really cool. So Robert, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us like kind of how you came to the faith and how you got into ministry in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Glad to. My life started, I kind of describe my life with storms. I know Joe Novenson calls them grace quakes, which I like that term. And it began with my parents' divorce at 1 year old when I was one. And so my mom really became my spiritual hero. She led me to the faith when I was 10 years old. We were in a church and I just kept hearing this invitation to receive Christ. And I was like, I don't want to walk down front. I don't want to do this. And my mom she just kept asking me, like, do you want to receive Jesus? And finally, after just her loving, I always saw my mom reading her Bible. She'll be 90 years old here in a few weeks. She's one of the heroes of my faith and just continues to be in my life. And so she led me to Christ early on. She would just sit and read her Bible. I would see her pray a lot, raising 4 kids as a single mom, just an amazing woman with a long, hard story herself. And then probably my junior year of high school, I got involved in Young Life and had some guys really invest in me, ask me hard questions for the first time in my life. Involved in the church all the way through that as well. Had a great youth group. And then kind of the junior year, summer, just my life, I really understood what Jesus had done for me. So then if you fast forward, 35 years, as a pastor, I worked in a church in Cookeville, Tennessee, as a youth and family ministry for about 12 years, including 2 years of an internship, and then moved to Chattanooga at First Pres, served 8 years in that church as a youth pastor, and then really about 9 years ago, one of my friends invited me to a discipleship conference, local conference here in Chattanooga. And I was like, oh man, like all I'm going to do is go hear what kind of a failure I have been as a discipler of people. And I was kind of just kind of at a pretty dry place, I guess, spiritually and ministry wise, just wondering. Honestly, I think the Spirit was working in my heart to long for more. And when I say that, there's a lot attached to that, that longing for more, and a lot of that longing for more was I was just hearing a lot of what I've termed gospelization of everything.
Yeah.
And so it was preach the gospel to yourself, do a gospel-centered marriage, be a gospel-centered father, be a gospel-centered pastor, all these things. And it just, that mantra just became for me like, isn't there more to following Jesus than just remembering that I'm a sinner, remembering my justification, remembering I'm a sinner, covered in righteousness, adopted son? Like, there's got to be more to following Jesus. And that I'm not saying that's not true and all right and all great. It should be, right? But this discipleship conference, the Spirit used to, like a sledgehammer in my life, just to wake my heart up, like a defibrillator, if you will. And this guy started talking about Jesus in ways that I'd never heard anyone talk about Jesus in all the years, about how Jesus was this real person who studied the scriptures, who did life through the Spirit, who spent time in prayer with his Father, who did life as the second Adam in ways that we were designed to do life. And so as I started contemplating that, I kind of left that seminar as an ordained PCA pastor going, I don't know Jesus. And it hit me like a load of bricks. Like, I knew that Jesus was my atonement. I knew he was my savior. I knew he was the only way to heaven, the only true life, the way, the truth, and the life. Like, I knew all those things. I had a massive amount of theological head knowledge, but not a heart knowledge of who Jesus was as a person, what he was like. And so it just struck me that the church has done a tremendous amount of work on the work of Christ, but we've really neglected a weakness of the church, I believe, is a study of Jesus as a person. And our Christology believes in the person and the work. And so I really just started consuming the Gospels, bought a Gospel Harmony, which puts them in parallel columns, and just started studying the nuances of all the Gospels. And then came across, at another seminar in Atlanta, a guy got up and did like a 20-minute session on the person of Jesus. And I was like, oh, he's eating what I'm eating. I want more. So I grabbed him when I got off stage. I said, where did you hear this stuff? And I'm on this journey. And he said, man, you need to get a hold of Paul Miller at See Jesus. He's done a lot of work on the person of Jesus. And so that was my introduction to See Jesus at that point. So
two quick questions.
Yeah.
This is something we love to ask because I think this is a place and a space to do it. Who were the names of the Young Life guys that poured into you?
Oh yeah. If you grew up in Knoxville, you probably know these two names, or in Young Life at all. Steve Chesney and Buddy Odom were my Young Life leaders. And they're like the all-star. They're like the Christian Grahams of youth ministry, right? They're amazing guys. That just poured into my life and at a very pivotal time. And my siblings were also a huge part of that. I'm the youngest of four. They were a massive part of my upbringing and following Jesus. So,
yeah. And then what was the conference the first one you went to, or do you remember who the speaker was?
Yeah. It was a guy named Dan Spader. Has a ministry called A Son's Life. It's a study of the son's life. Great great stuff. I think he's out in Arizona now. Did some adjunct stuff at Southern, but that was my first introduction to that stuff. And then from there, just a cool snowball of, I picked up one of the first books I could find on the person of Jesus was a book by Bruce Ware on the humanity of Christ, which was really good. And that was kind of an introductory book. And then from there, it's just, I'm not exaggerating. I'm 54 years old. I am more excited to follow Jesus now than I ever have been. And I'm not just blowing smoke. It's like I've been riding this wave for like 9 years now, and it just never seems to crest. Like I got to go to Israel right before the war started. Thankfully got home. But again, just another watershed. Like there is so much to know about this one we follow. And in order to follow him, one of my premises is in order to follow him, we have to know him, and not just that he died and rose again, but there's so much more to him.
Laura, just wanted to say hi. Hi, Laura.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Laura.
Hey. Yeah. Hey, Robert.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. You mentioned you went to Israel. What was one of the highlights for you?
Oh man, I knew
had you been there before, or
no,
that was your first time? Okay, what was like a highlight or two for you being there?
Oh man, there's so many. I got to spend 2 weeks, so it's just like it was an amazing trip, led by a guy named John Farwell. Has a ministry called Walk the Story. It was just so good. I think Galilee was just my favorite area. Seeing the geography, how the geography, the history, the first century context shapes the things that Jesus teaches, and there's just so much. What is just seeing in context a shepherd with sheep, a sheepfold and a sheep pen, and what Jesus is talking about in John 10. When he goes to Caesarea Philippi, we went up there and Peter claims him to be the Son of the living God in the midst of just vast pagan worship in that area of the country. All this stuff. Galilee, though, is absolutely beautiful. It's really still looks much like it did in the first century. It's undeveloped. Tiberias is the biggest city on the Sea of Galilee, and it was started by Herod Antipas. So it's just gorgeous. We would sit out at night. We're having our time, and like jackals were howling, owls were going crazy. You'd wake up in the morning, it's just waterfowl flying everywhere, parakeets and birds singing. I was just like, wow, like this, no wonder Jesus loved Galilee. It's just a absolutely beautiful area. Lots of other reasons he loved it, but
That's awesome.
Lots of stuff firing in my brain over my time there, for sure.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So we mentioned you go on this kind of personal journey. You're doing youth ministry. Before you get to see Jesus, what did you see shift in your youth ministry? How you did things, how you approached things?
Great question.
What would that transition look like?
Yeah, it was a shift from like, I want to give these kids Bible knowledge. I want to give them apologetics so they understand how to defend their faith. I want them to understand the theology that they follow. All of that is awesome, and we should be doing that. But if my shift was the purpose behind every bit of that is that they would fall more in love with Jesus. And I feel like I totally missed that. The vast majority of my time in youth ministry. And that's why I love doing what I'm doing now, getting to work with youth pastors to help capture their heart for Jesus so they'll give him away to their students. Because there's just, I think it's one thing to make sure kids are equipped with the correct theology, with Bible knowledge, with apologetics. But if they walk onto a college campus with a bunch of facts and truth in their head, and maybe they're in love with the Bible, if you will. But if they're not in love with the person who they follow, then when they get up against the paradigm shifting challenges of college and what comes at you, the world of ideas, I think it's much easier to break up with ideas than it is a person. And so that's the premise of what I started to shift and what I long to do now for youth ministries as much as possible is, man, that's the heart of it. How do you capture their heart for Jesus, that they would love him more and more, that if they were to break up with him, it'd be like breaking up with their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their best friend. Like, it'd be abandoning their primary relationship. It wouldn't be abandoning a theology or an ideal or an ideology. It would be abandoning a person who's done this extraordinary thing and loves them. So does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a real challenge, I think, for us when we're dealing with parents who, I don't want to make this crass, but it's almost like, hey, I want my kid to have as many bullets as possible when they leave. Right? And it's Tulip, and it's the Westminster Confession, and it's there's a guy I'm thinking about on YouTube and I can't think of his name right now, like, who's just great at apologetics, who goes on campuses and has great, very kind dialogue with people. I don't mean aggressive, but I mean, like, and they marvel at that, and they're like, I want my kid to be able to do that. And I've just, and this might be a nice pivot into See Jesus, because there is a desire to turn our youth ministries into seminaries.
Yep.
Right. Like, I want my kid, and I've worked in a couple different contexts. And so I've been in some contexts where it's like, I just don't want my kid doing crack. Please just do whatever you can with my kid to keep them out of everything else in the world. And then there's like the kind of, I've been in churches that are seminaries. I mean, like, cause they have incredibly gifted, incredibly knowledgeable people teaching Sunday school. And it's like, I've had seminary classes that are not as good as a Sunday school class. But that gets elevated, right? To a status. And then there's this desire, like, if we can just, and this is the illusion, if we can just equip our kids enough, they won't have a crisis of faith. And that's not really how it works. I mean, one, it's not wrong to have, it's not bad to have a crisis of faith when we're talking about individuals that are self-actualizing and becoming their own person. There should be a crisis. There should be a moment to say, is this what I really believe?
Absolutely.
That's fundamental to our development. That has to happen. And two, like, I like what you're saying about, like, if we're really leading them into a relationship with a real person, it's not just something that's a philosophy or an intellectual construct that can be torn down by another philosophy or intellectual construct, right?
Yeah.
And what would you rather walk through a crisis with? Someone that loves you or a book? Right? I mean, like, if I'm going through a crisis, like the physical copy of Søren Kierkegaard, like, that's not comforting, no matter what my philosophy is. Right. But the person of Jesus is someone that you want to walk through that crisis with.
That's a great point.
Before I ask anything else from you, Mikey or Laura?
The only thing I was just thinking about was, like, when I was in seminary, sitting in the classroom, hearing all these beautiful things spoken about the scriptures and about Jesus, about God, and just being like, feeling like it's just like a clinical, sterile experience, and going, he's in the room, he's here, like, he's right here, like, we're just talking as if this is just such a, there's like, it almost feels like we should start singing and worshiping and enjoying what we're talking, it's beautiful. But it wouldn't happen that often. You would just kind of sit and listen and hear about these things, and it kind of felt like it was a splicing. I was experiencing a splicing of here. You just think and ignore the heart that you're feing as we speak about these things and talk about these things and the implications they have for your marriage right now and raising your kids right now and the implications they have for your community, you know, but yet you're kind of feeling that. But in that training process, that environment, it's like, it does. I do think it can create pastors that are heads on sticks and can kind of be operating, you know, I just remember really wrestling through that, of being like, walking out of the classroom almost upset in some ways of like, we you know, we talk so much about this stuff as if Christ isn't like a person, you know, he's just a person that is that we can just read about and dissect the script, which is true. And like you were saying, so good. But I think if you're in seminary doing youth ministry right now or leading, that tension you're feeling is good. Stay in that tension. And don't let it splice and split. You know, engage all of that at the same time. Now, you know, no shade on seminary professors. Like they got a job, right? They got work to do. But it is true. Like when you approach studying the scriptures and you're being trained, especially the training we do in pastoral ministry, when you approach it from a Western educational academic process. I mean, like even just look how Jesus teaches. You were talking about Galilee, you know, like that context, like how we're doing it is done in a way that kind of cuts the human nature out of it and tries to get it very sterile. You know,
Westerners are we're ideas. We learn through ideas.
Yes,
and less through relationship. Our emphasis is on ideas. And Mikey, I too want to, you know, I had an awesome seminary experience. I loved my seminary professors. RTS Charlotte is where I went.
I did too.
Amazing experience, and I love. But I do think there are pieces, right? Seminaries can't cover everything. There's pieces that are weaker in certain seminaries than others, but part of that is like in youth ministry, it's like Matt, you were talking about the like two ends of the spectrum, right? You have this heavily theological stuff that we want to train kids in, right? And I'm not saying like the study of Jesus as a person is theology. So theology is a good word. That's not a curse word.
No,
it's a good thing. His person and his work, like that's Christology. It's theology. But all of our theologies have weak points. And so I think what I have been convicted of in my own life and have seen is unless someone is captured and begins to see the lens of Scripture through a new lens, through a paradigm shift, and begins to see people and watch the way Jesus loves and interacts, that we're learning what love looks like when we look at him. And then I would say, like, I think there's aspects of because we have not seen Jesus as a person, oftentimes our default mode is, my own kids have said this to me, like, hey, we need to forgive like Jesus forgave. And oftentimes when my kids were little and younger, they'd say, well, he's God. Like he can do that. You know,
hey, they got a point.
Right.
That's called the Uno reverse card when they throw that down, like boom, man, reverse.
No doubt. It's true, but it's also reveals the weakness of the church, that we have not taught about the second Adam as fully human. And that I recommend this book wholeheartedly to folks, a book by Gerald Hawthorne, kind of hard to find. It's called The Power and the Presence, the work of the Spirit in the life and ministry of Jesus. And it's a transformative book for me. It was a few years ago, and he just really emphasizes, like, Jesus is doing, if we understand Philippians 2 correctly, and lots of other places that Jesus is doing life as the second Adam out of the power of the Spirit, and that he's not pulling from his divinity to live out his humanity. Otherwise, Hebrews is not true. He's not like us in every other way because he's cheating, right? So he is imitatable, like that, like the work of the Spirit in our lives is to transform us into the image of the one that we follow. And I think our overemphasis, if you will, on our fallen focus condition, our emphasis on sin and total depravity, along with our lack of emphasis and understanding of how the Spirit worked in the life of Jesus, I think the combination of those two necessitated a book, The Forgotten God, on the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
It necessitated, like, what I believe is an age of quenching the Spirit in the life of believers. So that's another. I have so many things I go off on. Sorry if that's off topic, but
no, that's great. I am going to pivot a little bit because I'd like to talk, and I'd like to hear from Laura and Mikey too. This is kind of a general question. I feel like I have had a very strange relationship with curriculum over my career. I think when I first started, my kind of, and this is, I don't know if it was pride, but it definitely felt like, you pay me to do this full time, I should not be using a curriculum. Like, I should be doing all the work to come up with these lessons on my own. It felt like cheating to me as a full-time staff person, which is not everybody's context. And that has changed over time. And I found that even just trying to figure out what to teach next was tremendously stressful and time consuming. And then like actually finding worthwhile curriculum that actually had more than I could ever possibly use, and then finding ways to get that into leaders' hands and empowering them to teach more, and getting ways to deploy stuff in different venues, different ways, like devotionals or small group questions or materials for parents. So I've found that I've actually kind of exploded what I went from doing nothing to doing a lot more with curriculum over time. So I've gone through a paradigm shift. I'm curious, like, what you guys, Mikey and Laura, what you think about what your thoughts have been about curriculum over time. And then Robert, obviously I'd love to talk about why you went to See Jesus and how that works as a curriculum, and why youth leaders should think about it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt, I kind of similar to you. Like, at first with curriculum, I kind of struggled in that way of I should be writing my own stuff to, it's in the context where I was in Jackson, Mississippi. It was a multi-ethnic church. And so we had kids who grew up in the church. And then we had kids who came from the neighborhood. And so we were dealing with white kids, black kids, just kids from all, we know in our youth ministries, kids come from all different backgrounds. And at that point, I just felt like there wasn't really curriculum that spoke to our students in a way, or it kind of missed it a little bit. So there was a lot of contextualization that we had to do. But more recently, I've relied heavily on curriculum. I think there are a lot of great resources out there. And so that's been kind of my shift throughout the years of kind of, I'll write some things here and there. And I kind of take curriculum as like a framework for everything else, whether it's a series, whether it's for that lesson. So I have shifted to using curriculum more and getting that into the hands of leaders and empowering them in that way, or small groups and things like that. So that's kind of been a little bit of my history with that. Mikey, what about you?
We do use curriculum as well, but there's this process, like, we try to encourage everyone to try to make it their own, and kind of a little bit of to take the curriculum and engage it with your story, like how God's made you, the way that you bear God's image, the giftings that he's given you, and channeling it when you teach it or speak it with our leaders. It's very much like, hey, like God put you here on this planet for this specific moment in time in Lecanto, Florida in the 21st century with these people. And he's been writing it all along and it comes together here. So take this, scripture passage curriculum that we use and don't just like read it to the kids, but like put it into your life and let it speak from there. So usually that comes through like people using their own stories or their own experiences where the curriculum might give a suggestion, just be like, why don't you make that spot yours? You know what I mean? In that sense. And maybe take a time and a moment to just go off script and just share how you personally were wrestling with the text this week, whatever it may be, and how that was playing out in your life. I know for students, that really helps them because there is such a difference in age with students. And so just giving them those landing points, they can also pick up too when you're just like sitting there reading it to them. You know what I mean? Like they just, they're not, so that's just the other thing as well. But curriculum is a great tool. I've shared though with you, Matt, coming out of seminary, for me was really hard to like be like, oh, I gotta use this, like didn't I just pay all this money? And it was also just pride and arrogance, like thinking I could do it better. And the truth is I cannot. So
the greatest seminarian line of ever in a movie is from Nacho Libre.
What is it?
People don't think I know a buttload of crap about the gospel, but I do. we feel like we gotta demonstrate that. Like, look, no, I spent all this money on Greek. Let me show you. Nobody cares.
No one cares.
Nobody cares. Yeah. And actually, my Greek professor was like, if I ever hear you say this is what it means in the Greek, really means in the Greek, like I'll kill you. And my youth pastor, as someone that was, I was in, at Covenant in Covenant doing a summer internship, and the guy that I prayed with to accept Christ was like, you are trying to teach the things that you've learned to learn scripture. Don't do that. Teach them scripture. Don't use the stuff that you learned in class to teach you how to learn scripture. Like teach it to them. Don't teach them what you learned. Don't show off. And so that was kind of hammered into me, but yeah. So Robert, like you're a youth pastor, you're doing your boots on the ground, doing youth ministry. You're going through a personal journey and connecting with the person of Christ. How do you use curriculum? How does that change in this journey? And then how do you get to see Jesus? And then what is unique about See Jesus and how that works? That's like 12 questions. Go.
It is. Yeah. I mean, that's very similar to you guys. There's part of me. One reason I love working at See Jesus is because I have a tremendous creative itch in me. If I'm not able to create, I go a little crazy. And so that itch for me, just like you guys have said, like coming out of seminary, like I want to create it myself. I want to, and a lot of that was just pride of knowledge. I want to communicate it the way I want to communicate, not the way someone else is communicating it. They're missing this. They're not saying this. I want to say that. Like all those kind of nuances of my really stubborn, sinful, selfish heart. So I think when I would get, I think God's kingdom. Don't you love God's kingdom? I mean, there's just so many possibilities now, curriculum wise. So many people are writing so many good things that can be used. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I was in youth ministry, like there was often where like I was leading 5 or 6 studies a week. And it was like, you're leading Sunday school, Sunday night, a small group, a Wednesday night with the middle school, another small group with my wife. Like there was a lot going on. And so like to be able to study each one of those and be really fully prepared, I was going a little nuts. And so that's when I started leaning into some other materials, and it's what really. So as I started this journey of looking at materials, I realized that I wanted to be part of something that I had seen in the Gospels, a pattern of Jesus' life that he just, as I started reading through, I was like, man, he asked a lot of questions. And we always lump those in the rhetorical category, but I don't know that we can say that all of those are rhetorical. Like in the Gospels total, there's like 339 questions Jesus asked. In Matthew, it's a little over 100 questions. So it's like, why is Jesus asking all these questions? And so part of it's the first century model of the way they learned. They ask questions in a debate format, going back and forth. But I started thinking interacting with Paul Miller's material on the person of Jesus, that was just interactive question, answer, you facilitating a discussion and not just sharing all that you learned, to watch people discover truth. And so it's hit me recently, honestly, like I think the heart of a teacher is for you to study something, to understand something so well that normally that means I'm so excited to give it away to you, listen to me. But I think that actually the heart of the teacher is, how do I then take that information, create questions that's going to draw someone else to discover the very same truth that I have discovered in my study? And they're not just told it, but I create questions that lead them to discover the beautiful truths in this passage that I've studied so hard. And I just want to spout out to them, right? Because we know, I mean, the learning structure pyramid has been around for so long, right? It's the retention rate is proven. It's probably lower than what I'm about to quote you, but the one that I've seen recently was 5% retention of knowledge when we lecture, and it jumps to 50% when we have an open discussion, and it jumps to 90% when you're the one leading the discussion. And so part of that transforming aspect is we've moved into like discipleship of students where they're actually learning to facilitate these studies in the person of Jesus, where they're learning to ask questions and be a facilitator of discussion, even as sophomores, juniors, seniors in high school, doing that with other students. So that's been a really fun kind of group to experiment with. We had like almost 20 groups this year do that, 20 youth groups try that model. So I think, that whole, I'm very much into, I even preach interactively now. I'll ask, not in our normal studies, we have 20 questions or so. I'm not asking 20 questions in a sermon, but I am asking 5 or 6, and letting the audience actually answer those questions, just to hear that. And I think, man, some people are probably not going to like this question when they hear your podcast, but I love asking pastors, like, when did the sermon become a monologue? Like when, and nobody can really answer that other than the Protestant Reformation and the possibilities of illiteracy rates at the time. But I don't know that Scripture defines it as a monologue. I see Jesus asked 19 questions on the Sermon on the Mount. So I would just encourage, there's some creativity in the way we should be communicating God's word, and a discipleship material can help facilitate discussion. So that's what I would say. No matter what the discipleship material is, Mikey, what kind of similar to what you're saying, like if I'm able to give this to my adult leaders and it's given them some good questions to lean into the passage and to help students understand that, it's got to be discussion based for me now. That's like, that's the standard now for me for material that's a discipleship material, because kids need to be talking about their faith. And when a kid answers a question in a group, like, you get a little bit of a lens into their life, like, I wonder why he answered that way. It gives you opportunities to follow up with them, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I love getting to create discipleship materials that are interactive. It's a lot of fun.
And so when did you transition out of church staff to See Jesus staff?
Yeah, about 8 years ago. Yeah, and it's been really fun. And I have 2 student groups that I do every year, one at a local school and one at my house. And so I'm still involved in student ministry in many regards. And I have some at home. So
Robert, sorry, Matt.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Mikey, please.
I wanted to say the discussion thing is so fascinating. I think what I've been learning too a little bit is that there is like preaching done in African American churches that are very just like that, where there's call and response, and it's like they describe it. They say it's playing the gospel jazz, like you are jazzing with each other. And they describe it as music where they're sort of inviting the audience to participate, they'll even yell out questions. Tell us more about that. And, and the preacher presses in. So, it might be also just like us more white American preachers and things like that we're like, let's monologue it. But in my head, I'm like, I agree. Like I couldn't and that's such a light bulb moment. I'm like, I'm now starting to think of ways how I can shape my youth ministry. We do discussion groups afterwards. Like, then we do discussion groups. We give them questions. But I do feel like the questions that we ask are like so just knowledge regurgitation.
Yeah.
Like, let me just say like Peter, what did Peter do when he saw Jesus? We got out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How can I ask a question that's more, what does that look like? Asking more, and like it's an open-ended question that creates discovery.
Yeah, one of my friends has the best set of questions for every talk he does. Every time he gives them, and I think the question is, one, what is something new that you learned? What is something you want to renew that you learned? And then I can't remember the third one, but they're questions that aren't just regurgitating the information. Yeah.
And it invites, I like that because it invites that jazz of like people, you don't know what they're going to say, but they're going to say something. And then you guys all play along in that group together. I don't know. That's great. So it's question, what's something new you learned and what's something that you renewed? What was it?
Something renewed. Yeah. Something you need to change, or something you feel like you're being called to as a result of it. So it leaves it open-ended. Yeah. And I think, Mikey, there's one reason, like See Jesus does a lot of training of how to teach interactively, because it is a nuanced skill, right? In homiletics, they teach you how to preach, right? But there's no response. So what does it look like to gain the skill of facilitating discussion in a large group that really does work? And it takes a long time to develop that skill. Some people, I think youth pastors are actually naturally gifted at it because they're kind of doing that style anyway.
And we also learn how to handle absolutely absurd answers all the time.
That's very true.
Like we like I said, you could ask a kid, like, what did Peter do? It could be like not open-ended at all. It's the real answer. Yeah. The kid says, my fish is really suffering. Now we're just pivoting to like
off to the races.
Yeah. Off to the races. Yeah. Oh, you have a fish.
Or there's like this really cool one, right? There was this one kid. We had this study. One of our core studies is the widow of Nain, how Jesus sees, has compassion, and he moves to action. And so there's a middle school kid. So this facilitating this lesson, the questions asked, like talking through what did this woman lost? And so you write their answers down on the board, and this middle schooler says, hey, do you think that Jesus knows that he knows his mom's a widow And so he has an extra amount of compassion for this woman who's a widow. And I'm just like, this is like a sixth grader, right? So that's the beauty of discussion, right? This is the church entering in and learning from one another in a community. And you can learn stuff from a sixth grader and a senior in high school and an 80-year-old, right? I mean, it's just, that's what the church should look like.
There's just also randomly too, kind of thinking, you used to hear these stories like the Gospels and like big sittings. Like it wouldn't always come to you in little, like if you were rehearing it, right? Like it wouldn't be broken up into one verse at a time. Oh, there's a place for that. But just like you would hear the whole story, you would know, Jesus, oh yeah, Jesus's mother died. And you would have heard that, 10 minutes earlier, or not, father died. And right. Like there would be more of this storytelling nature to hear the Gospels in some way.
That's a good point.
But I don't know. I was just thinking like that. I mean, like that kid, what is insightful thought. Pretty sweet. Sorry, Matt. I interrupted you.
No, that's good. So Robert, if I'm a youth pastor, youth director, youth leader, volunteer, whatever, and I hear what you're saying, and I want to try to pivot from monologuing and regurgitating, what would you think would be the first step with See Jesus to move in that direction?
Yeah, for them, actually, is that what you're asking, Matt? What should they do kind of in there? Well, one, I would say your prep time is still the same. Like if you're just taking a passage, like we have stuff to offer. I'll talk about that at the end, but I think your prep time is the same, but the key is now that I understand what I want to communicate, how can I create 10 or 15 questions that help someone else discover what I've just discovered? And how can we do that in a community as I figure out those questions, right? The ones I mentioned to Mikey are kind of geared towards like someone speaks and then you go into a small group and break it down and talk about what you learned. But how can you begin to take what you've studied all week and prepared for and create questions that are in the passage and in the text that pull the imagination in, that pull from the facts of the Bible, that pull people into the heart of Jesus and the heart of what's being said? Man, it takes a lot of hard work to come up with good questions to do that. So that's what I'd say. Just add that to what you're already doing, which is preparing well, but go one more step and begin to work hard on creating some good questions that are going to lead someone else to discover, not yourself.
Awesome.
Maybe the questions you asked, right? Maybe the questions you asked initially of the passage.
Yeah, yourself. I was going to say, like when I'm reading the passage, I'm asking a lot of questions, and that leads me to certain studies. And then all of a sudden I go up to preach, and I ignore the dialogue that I've been having the whole time with Jesus, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So it's like it's all the details begin to pop when you start thinking about those questions, because then you're like, oh, wait, I got to get this for a middle school and a high schooler to pick up. I'm going to have to slow way down. And that's part of what we emphasize at See Jesus, is just slowing down. Like when Peter rebukes Jesus and he says, hey, you're not going to go suffer and die and be raised again. And Peter rebukes him. There's this cool little nuance in there where if you're not slowing down, you never see it. And it says, as Peter took Jesus aside, it says, Jesus turns and looks at his disciples, then rebukes Peter. Well, I think there's you could just ask the question, why do you think Jesus turned and looked at his disciples first? It's in there. Like, why is that detail included? And it's Mark that mentions the detail. And if we believe that Peter is the one that gives the information to Mark to write this gospel down, Peter remembers that look. And I think Peter understands, and Mark is trying to emphasize to us that Peter, as the spokesman, he knows if Peter goes wrong here, they go wrong. And and then he turns and blisters Peter, right? And rebukes Satan at the same time. So just an illustration of slowing down and creating questions that pull them into what's being taught, the stories that are there.
So, and you said you had stuff. So that would be the next step. Where do we start with See Jesus? Where do you think would be the best thing to get if I wanted to start into this? And it's a little bit of whether it's personally like you went through of seeking Jesus himself, or how do I do this better at whatever level I'm at in ministry? Where would we start with See Jesus materials?
Yeah, I mean, I would pick up a copy of the Harmony of the Gospels. It's not a harmonized in the sense of like it's blended together, but it's just in parallel columns. I would start reading that in the Gospels. Helps you pick up on nuances and subtleties, details. And then, we have five units that we're working on at See Jesus for Student Ministry, and I have the joy of getting to write those. And 2 of those are complete on the compassion of Jesus and the honesty of Jesus. And I've just finished the Passion Week. I was hoping to get it done in January, just didn't happen. But we'll be out after Easter, so good timing. But it's this beautiful, they're all interactive studies on the person of Jesus, kind of highlighting. We're not going to pick up on every theological nuance that's in there, but we're trying to help people fall in love with Jesus. And so these interactive studies are designed to capture their heart for Jesus. And we do that, there's so many ways. You could even just purchase it from our website, seejesus.net. And you can find it under the resources, the student ministry page as well. We will come and do trainings with you and your volunteers on teaching interactively. We've offered cohorts online and in person that people can just sit. I like to say the place to begin is just to come to one of our cohorts and just sit in the person of Jesus. Just what is this nuanced thing you're talking about that's a paradigm shift? Do I really believe Robert? Do I really think like, is he really telling the truth of like, and I would say, come and see for yourself. And I invite you to come just experience Jesus in a new way. And then we can offer training for your group, or I'll just train your youth pastor who can train the group, those kind of things. So lots of flexibility, but love to be a resource to any and every student ministry across the country. So yeah, thanks for letting me share that.
Awesome. Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us and telling stories and letting us learn about you and your passion and your love for youth ministry.
For
guys,
sure.
Any closing thoughts, questions?
Thank you, Robert.
No, seriously, thank you, Robert. So
now I'm like, oh, gotta make everything discussion based now. I'm excited. I learned so much. So
well, good.
Hey, we got to get kids to lead the discussions because they retain 90%. And
I know. That's right. And that's what our student See Jesus apprentice groups are all about that.
Yeah.
Like, let me help you get your students so they're leading studies with,
I love that.
Get a junior or senior, lead them with your middle school, right?
Yeah.
It's so cool. So there's really 2 big aspects of what we try to, it's the paradigm shift of studying Jesus as a person and the paradigm shift of teaching interactively. Those are the 2 big things.
And my big takeaway from just talking with you for this hour for the first time in my life is experiencing Jesus and realizing you have communicated clearly to me. He sees me too. So I really am. Thank you. So I needed that today.
Amen.
Really grateful.
Good.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you guys.
All
it's
right,
a pleasure
guys.
being with you.
Oh, great talking to you. Great to meet you. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for your time. God bless you guys. Hang in there. Keep at it. And let's keep loving students. God bless you guys.
Amen.